Milling Through History presents the Ninth Symphony. When it comes to the name of Ludwig von Beethoven, many people can certainly think of multiple pieces of music that he created. However, perhaps his greatest piece came in 1824, and that being the Ninth Symphony. The symphony itself was commissioned by the Philharmonic Society of London in 1817, and based off of how long it is, at 70 minutes, most musical historians have argued that Beethoven had written numerous pieces for the symphony with the intention of putting them all together in some form or another, but it would take a great deal of time. And so, while the majority of the work was written between 1822 and 1824, Beethoven had a great deal of inspiration to go off of for over 30 years. And as such, by the time the symphony was completed, he had no idea of exactly how big of a masterpiece he truly had on his hands. Now, when the work was completed and the decision to make a premiere was to occur, Beethoven felt that his symphony ought to premiere in Berlin over Vienna, namely because he believed that Vienna was being overrun by Italian musicians, and therefore his work would not be greatly appreciated. When word of this was leaked out, friends begged and convinced Beethoven to go ahead and make the premiere occur in Vienna. Being flattered at the amount of support he had, Beethoven agreed. And as such, in putting together just an orchestra for this, it proved to be a massive undertaking, as the largest orchestra ever put together for one symphony would occur at this time. Now, no known list of performers has ever been fully compiled, but it is generally believed that all the known notable talents in Vienna were brought in just for this one symphony alone. For the vocals of the performance, Henrietta Sontag and Carolyn Unger would be given the task of doing both the soprano and alto portions. When it came to rehearsals, though, many in the orchestra felt they were greatly underprepared, as there were only 2 full rehearsals and many small rehearsals for different segments that had been conducted. In addition to this, there was a great deal of concern as to whether or not Beethoven would be the one conducting the symphony, namely because the last time he had done conducting duties, it had been through a massive disaster. One of the issues which had been occurring was that Beethoven was deaf and therefore unable to know exactly the pacing of the musicians compared to the pacing in his head. As such, the musicians and the singers were instructed that while Beethoven may be doing work as a conductor, they were to ignore him and instead keep their eye on the baton of Louis Duport. Now, according to witnesses who saw the premiere, while Beethoven was on the stage conducting, it appeared as if he was acting like a madman who had wanted to play all the instruments and sing all the vocals simultaneously. However, even though he would go ahead and conduct the performance of the symphony the way he had envisioned it in his own head, the performance itself was a great success, as the audience would erupt into applause multiple times. When the symphony was over, though, Beethoven, unaware that the musicians had stopped playing, had continued conducting, and it wasn't until Carolyn Unger walked over to him and turned him around that he would be able to see that the audience was cheering him. And even though he was deaf, Beethoven could see the waving of handkerchiefs, and therefore knew that the audience had given him their support and sympathy for the task that he had undertaken and successfully concluded. Now be sure to click like, share, and subscribe for future episodes of Milling Through History, and be sure to leave comments below for future episode ideas, and make sure to look at our suggested reading page.